or the delay. I think Joe's either having some technical problems or some shit was happening. But we're here, and it's great to be here.
We're here.
Yeah. And listen, can't do the opening. YouTube's having some issues with it, which I still don't get because I own the copyright. But whatever. We'll figure something out.
We will.
Yeah, if you're new to the broadcast, this is the Hair Loss Show. Been on the air for, in some iteration or another, for 27 years. That's crazy. I'll tell you how crazy that is. I have hair transplant surgeons who are now applying to my organization who were kids. They were children. when I started this thing. And what's even more fascinating about that, there are a few of them who has been following me for their entire adult lives. They were dealing with hair loss themselves. And part of the reason they decided to go into hair transplant surgery, some of these younger guys, is based on their own experiences and this broadcast, which is wild to me. I had a long conversation with somebody today. Doesn't quite have enough time on tissue. He's a young guy, but he will soon. And he's telling me his whole story. And I'm just like, look, brother, I feel old enough at this point.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to keep reiterating
how
young you were when you discovered us.
Yeah, I get it. 27 years is a long time. All right, Joe, listen, we do have some calls in line. I know you wanted to start with something that you felt was compelling. I know that Dr. Dan Daniel is trying to call in, and I know that he also has to leave at a certain time.
Well, let's go ahead and pivot to him first, because I don't know how long this thing will last that I want to talk about, which is the subject of the show today, which is service given for reviews, which is I mean, we all know it's a bad problem in the industry where reviews online. I'm just going to touch on the subject matter before we switch to Dr. Daniel.
Sure.
In that you do need to develop a sense for what's real when it comes to looking at reviews regarding anything really, but you need to look for consistency. And the problem with this industry and a lot of industries online is that you don't know. But you need to look for consistency.
Sorry, dude.
And the
Sorry.
Technical difficulties. Okay, is you don't know, what to believe, and part of the problem is because reviews, while they may be from legitimate patients, and they may even be legitimately happy, you don't know how much of an influence there has been due to services given in exchange for reviews. It can be some sort of medical treatment, non-surgical hair loss treatment as an adjunct for maintaining one's surgery. It can be a discounted surgery. It can be dinners, going out with a patient, taking them to dinners, which we've actually got some of that documented on the show.
I've heard about drinks and ladies of the evening as well.
Well, there you go. But I'm kind of shocked at what I've seen recently that really inspired me to put this down as today's subject, because this clinic was basically saying the quiet part out loud about how some of these reviews work. So we'll get further into that after Dr. Daniel has had his say. So let's go ahead and pivot over to him.
I'm just hoping that this is the right area code. I'm going to give it a shot. Hey, Dan, is that you?
Yeah, it is me.
Hey, Doc, I saw you holding on. I'm sorry for the
Joe,
delay.
how you doing?
Good, Doc. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I know
Good to hear
Spencer's
from you.
always great.
I'm always hanging in there. I do my best. Great that's a stretch, brother, but I do my
It's
best.
a stretch.
Well, you look great. How's that?
Oh, thank you, man. Listen, I mean, I think you're younger than me, right? You're about 5 years younger than me or something like that. And we talk sometimes.
I'm 56, so.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to be 59. So, I mean, you're about 2 years or whatever, 2.5 years younger than me. But we talk about health sometimes when we speak on the phone. We talk about like Wim Hof, and we talk about cold plunging and working out. And you really take great care of yourself.
I try to. Yeah.
Well, you have to because
You know,
you're performing all the
it's all
surgery
part.
yourself.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I have a great team, but no, I'm pretty passionate about nutrition, and I've got a cold plunge in my house. I got a sauna. I do a lot of kind of heat and cold and working out. I've done a couple Ironmans and things like that.
Well, before Rogan and everyone was doing all this stuff, you told me about it. I think we were at the bar at the Hollywood, and you were talking about it, or maybe it was a phone call before that, but it was years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps with workout recoveries. It keeps my mind clear. I sleep better. With my practice, I came from, the world of pain management before I got into hair restoration. You talk about being in just a bad state, as a physician with the opioid epidemic unraveling. I mean, I even as early as 2002, I was saying to my colleagues, I mean, there's a massive problem out here, and nobody seemed to listen. And it culminated to where I just finally found like a new relationship. That relationship was broken, and it's hair restoration. And I've been doing it since 2012, and really kind of jumped into it full speed. And
well, I know that you want. I don't mean to cut you off, but I know that you wanted to talk about just. I mean, you watch my stuff. You probably watch. I don't know if you watch the stuff that I put on Instagram, but you were talking about how, and I'm pretty sure this is what you wanted to speak about, just how patients are coming in. They're really shopping around when it comes to price. There are new pop-up clinics in Atlanta and other parts of the country, and they are kind of taking on this. And I hate to use it. Everyone thinks I'm picking on Turkey, but it just happens to be they're doing the most volume in the world. They're taking on these Turkish models, and they're offering pretty cut rate prices where logically, at least here in the States, no one could really afford to do this right at those rates.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I lost you for a second.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know you wanted to talk about that and just kind of the issues that are coming up in your practice.
Yeah, I think George Carlin said it the right way when he said that half the people out there are below average, and
that's true.
Yeah.
And so, he's talking about a bell-shaped curve. So, if you take that concept to hair restoration and then put it in the context of patients, I mean, if 50% of the practices out there are below average, and some of them are very low average, especially if they're entering and they're using price as kind of the enticing bait to pull people in. The problem is patients don't want below average results, and they don't want work to be redone. And I saw a patient that I worked on last month. He's a veteran, a truck driver. Great guy, had what was told to him 3,000 grafts, and the worst hairline I've ever seen. The procedure took 13 hours, tons of swelling, lots of pain. Anyway, his hairline was straight across into the forehead skin.
And that was local?
Wow.
It was local.
Okay.
Yes. And I actually took out his hairline. Guess how many grafts I took out on his hairline? 225.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, were you able to reuse them, or had you just get rid of them?
No, I reused them, but
okay.
I mean, they were at weird angles.
Oh, yeah.
They were 3 and 4 hair grafts. They were tangled. He's been wearing a hat for 2 years and essentially hasn't even taken his hat off to see his kids, and has been in isolation. So we ended up, taking out the grafts, and he essentially apparently paid for 3,000 grafts, or he thought he did. I think he probably got about 500 that I could see.
Okay.
And we ended up having to do, a pretty large beard extraction, and his donor site was still pretty good. It wasn't way over harvested, and he's just totally happy. When I showed him what I did compared to what was done, it was actually even more what they stated. That he was blown away.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
but I see this so frequently. I mean, it's becoming more and more of an issue.
Well, Dan, Dr. Daniel, I'm sorry. When I talk about what's happening overseas, and I do bring up the fact that that model has come here to the U.S. They're just doing much more volume overseas. But what's interesting here in the U.S. is that these newer clinics are starting to take on not only the Turkish model, but the Turkish hairline. That's straight across, low, tight, rounded, recess points, with actually with no recession whatsoever, straight across these kids' foreheads. And if they're lucky, maybe the hair is growing in the right direction, but they're still going to have, even if every hair grows and it's growing in the right direction and the angles are perfect, maybe that hair transplant will last them a couple of years at the most. As their hairline progresses, or as the hair progresses behind it, they're just going to have this barrier of hair in a really bizarre-looking hairline that's not even created in nature, except in certain cultures.
Yes, I unfortunately I see it. And the other aspect is just the over-harvesting. I worked on somebody this week that had 3,500 grafts done in Turkey, and wanted some more done in his crown, and it was a mess. His donor site. I ended up barely getting 750 grafts, scattered throughout the donor site. We did a shaveless procedure, which was great. And the shaveless is key on this over harvesting because you can really see where the density is and what you don't want to touch. And so when he left, his donor density looked great, unscathed, but still somewhat thin. He had pretty good coverage, but again, I had to tap into the beard to get up to 1,500. So we took 750, but he's tapped out. And I just, one concept that's not explained or really talked about a lot is wound contraction. And, when you do an FUE, you create a small hole, but if they're scattered appropriately, there is a lot of wound contraction that occurs that actually pulls the density back in. And, I mean, there are times where I do a case and I maybe do a second case that I really can't tell that I was there. And then I see other patients that have been at other places where they've been over harvested, or they use really large punches and just bad technique, and their donor sites are a mess. And so it's just so important to find a physician-driven clinic that actually cares about the donor site, and prices accordingly. And I'll tell you the formula here. And I don't know if you know our formula, but I would suggest any clinic that's doing, a proposal to a patient to not get final payment, say a week or two before, because you do not know how many grafts you're going to get. You do not know what the donor site's going to actually give. It's like having a bank account. You don't know if they have 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 in there.
Right.
So what we do is we do a deposit and some payment up front, but the final billing is done on the day of the procedure. And
there are some clinics that do that. I know a few that do, and I think that's a good approach.
I think it's great. The other thing is, I'm not a big believer in sedation, and I haven't sedated somebody for probably a year, even with oral medications, and everybody's happy and comfortable, and it's doing the numbing the right way, doing the right nerve blocks, but having the patient awake and having a fantastic experience and knowing that the grafts that we said that we did, they feel 100% confident that we did them.
Now what's your thoughts though on sedation? Because you come from pain management. I mean, do you think there's some sort of interference when it comes to oral sedation and lidocaine, some sort of interaction?
There can be, well, I mean, it's just another competing medication, for the liver. And so there can be some blood fluctuations. Some people can be very sedated on very low doses of medications. And then, other people are not sedated even with high medications. And the last thing I want is somebody completely zonked out. I like to have control of the situation. I feel like I'm out of control, in that arena. But for me, I want to give peace of mind to the patient because this is such an emotional process, and I don't think we focus on the emotion during the procedure appropriately, and kind of the pre-op and post-op, and all the education and discussion that needs to be. So if you create a good psychology and just a real trust that what you did is what you said you were going to do, you didn't over-harvest, it creates such a better...
But here's the thing, Doc. You're essentially an anomaly in this field, and there's plenty of guys, and a lot of the IHRS guys, feel the same way. Even though you've only been doing this you've been in the field since 2012, which is, it's a long period of time. You kind of look at hair transplant surgery, the way that it should be, and a lot of the guys that started to get into the field in, the late, 2000, past 2015, say, it was really looked at as a commodity because that's the way they saw it sold online. And when you go to these conferences, even when you go to the big, the trade shows like the ISHRS, people are really talking about the dollars and cents, and sometimes they're talking about, there's some education involved for sure. Everyone wants to get up there and talk, but what I hear in the hallways, it's not about the emotions of the patient. It's not about, they may be backbiting some of their colleagues, stuff like that, but they're not really discussing the patient experience. And I always kind of looked at these guys with a jaundiced eye, like, these are people. I understand that you have to kind of separate yourself and look at them as cases to some degree, but this is such an emotional experience. It's so difficult for a guy to A, admit that his hair loss is affecting him, and then B, go and get cosmetic surgery. There's so much involved, and they depend, their interpersonal relationships, their professional relationships. It's all in your hands. At least that's the way they see it.
Yeah. Well, I call it the art of concealment, and there's a lot that goes into doing that. You have to control how much volume you place, in somebody's head. Obviously, the more you place, the more, swelling and absorption that's going to occur, particularly in the face. If somebody is paying a little bit extra to do a no shave or shaveless procedure, and their face is completely swollen for a week, well, they just throw all their money away.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not optimal. So I've had to just be obsessive as far as, coming up with the right medications, the right blocks, minimizing medications, using pen implanters, minimizing epinephrine especially. I mean, we're down to about 1/8 of a cc for the entire case with epinephrine. And that means that I deal with a little bit more bleeding during the procedure.
Yeah.
But it also means that I'm not creating issues post-operatively. And I call all of my patients at the end of the week, and I called everybody this week, and I called my patient from yesterday. I did 2,000 grafts on him. He's a chiropractor locally. I've known him since 2000, actually. Great guy. And anyway, he went back to work today. And I did his frontal hairline.
Look, it's the fact that you have such a interest in every single detail of the surgery. Just by you explaining the things that you've explained, I think it's important for our listeners to understand that there's so many nuances to this super technical surgery that are completely not spoken about, overlooked, dismissed when someone is, booking their hair transplant through WhatsApp and then flying to another country, or, going to a local place here in, say Beverly Hills, And they're just being sold like a neograft hair transplant when no one even knows what the F that is. And these plastic surgeons are bringing in per diem technicians. These per diem technicians are, I mean, the hairlines that I'm seeing here in the plastic surgery capital of the U.S., it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's criminal. But look, Dr. Daniel, we are going to, I know you got to go. We're going to let you go. We're going to take some more phone calls.
Can I? I just wanted to say one other thing.
Absolutely.
And it's key. There are so many patient variables per case that make cases complicated. Every case is not easy.
Sure.
There might be more bleeding. There might be a skin texture problem. There might be tethered grafts. There may be popping when you're placing.
And you don't know that until you open these guys up, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So the variables, a consumer would say, "Oh, this is easy. They're just taking the hair out and putting it back in." It's the variables that make this extremely difficult.
Well, that's what Dr. Terry Dubrow from
Botch
Botch said on this very popular podcast. I couldn't even believe it. He's like, they're doing great work in Turkey. And like, what's the worst thing that can happen? You're not going to die from a hair transplant. Well, people do die from hair transplants. But besides that, there's a lot of complications that can happen. And the fact that this, well-known television plastic surgeon personality would say that made me just want to vomit.
Yeah. Yeah, but it also affects the results and affects the recovery, which affects the emotionality. It's a domino effect.
Absolutely.
And so you have to be dialed in. For any physician that's maybe thinking about getting in there, you've got to be dialed into this this type of mindset.
Well, I'm gonna let you go, but I will tell you this. When we did global hair loss, we did 3 years, and we didn't do this year. We're going to probably do it, maybe do it in a few months. I think you may or may not know, but I mean, it may be acquired, so it's something that could end up being brick and mortar as well. But the one thing that I wanted to do is invite all of the board-certified plastic surgeons, the societies, the facial plastic and reconstructive guys, all the people who are interested in getting involved in hair. And a lot of the response that I got from these guys who attended, especially the first meeting, the first conference, was, I thought it was a lot easier than that. I don't know if I want to go down this route. And that's a good thing. I wanted to make sure that they understood what they were getting into. Not just to buy a $150,000 machine and think they could offer hair transplants as part of their menu. So the guys that really cared about their practices, the guys that really cared about patients, the guys that really believed in first do no harm were like, shit, this is hard. I thought, because they're being sold a bill of goods by the device companies. And then that's passed on to the patients. But look, Dr. Daniel, thank you so much. I know you got a dinner to go to.
Thank you for having me on. And Joe, take care as well.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Good having you on. Thanks for calling in.
We'll talk soon. And guys, if you want to, if you're having a consultation, you're in the Atlanta area, this is not a commercial, but Dr. Daniel has been an accepted member of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons for many years. And I have to say that I don't even think we've ever gotten a complaint, if I think about it. I mean, maybe I could find one. I doubt it, though, because I would remember if I did. So that's pretty good, Dan. You're obviously, you have a lot of happy patients, and it's great to have you on board.
Awesome.
All right.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Take care. Okay, bye-bye.
Take care, Doc. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Atlanta's a funny place, as you guys know. It's good to have somebody with some, a good character, with some ethics. Ethics who really cares what they're doing. And to my knowledge, there's 2 physicians in the area, but there may be more that I don't know about. Never applied to the organization. But it's a fucking mess out there, people. I mean, it's a big city. It's a big town. It's a big, where he is, it's a metropolitan area. People are going to these chop shops because they're advertising $3, $4 a graft. And they think that's reasonable. Like, if you were going to get open heart surgery, that may sound like it's not a good analogy, but say You're getting a facelift. And you know if someone fucks you up, you're going to be disfigured. You're going to look like a wacko for the rest of your life. I can tell you this, that's a lot more repairable than a bad FUE hair transplant at this point. And no one fully grasps that. Guys, 888-659-3727. Hold on, we will take your calls. I know Joe had something on his mind that he really wanted to voice.
And what a segue that was, because it's like, did I tell you what I was going to be doing tonight? I don't think I did. But
no, but
it's just...
you kind of did, maybe. You alluded to it, but, I'm a professional, brother.
You are a professional. Exactly. God, there's so many options for that one. Yeah. Anyway, so, all right. As I was saying at the top of the hour, beginning of the show, over the years or throughout the history of this industry, and I'm going to talk about this industry. Yes, it applies to every other industry out there that has an online presence. I know, so there's no need to throw that in as well for comparison. We're talking about hair here, people. But ever since, hair transplant industry is migrated on to the online world, there's always been a question about legitimacy of reviews and patient experiences. And I've said in the past, even in some independent videos I made outside of the Bald Truth, I've talked about other hair loss influencers or hair restoration influencers in this space on YouTube or Instagram, TikTok, whatever, not disclosing any sort of professional affiliation, financial or otherwise, that they've had with the clinic or the doctor or the product that they are talking about. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be an obvious endorsement and just be, speaking favorably about a product without actually saying, "Hey, you should try this." It's kind of a slick sleight of hand to get in an endorsement, and a lot of these are actually paid. And I've talked about it. Like I made a video about Greg Doucette, the YouTuber, who kept saying throughout multiple videos that he made while he was in Turkey getting a hair transplant that he was only doing it because of his girlfriend. I don't even care about getting a hair transplant. I don't even care about my hair. I'm just doing it because it's like, sorry, that's my Greg Doucette imitation. But
I don't even know who that is.
It's complete horseshit.
Go ahead.
He's a bodybuilding YouTube influencer and very controversial. And I've talked about some other guys. I won't mention their names, but they're in the specific hair loss space here on YouTube that we're in, and it's always bothered me. But what's interesting to me is no one has actually been dumb enough to come out and advertise that they will give you free services in exchange for testimonials, for reviews. And I find that to be really amazing, because it's that thing where you hear the cliche on it's pretty popular right now, where someone says they said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
And that's what this case is. So if you're not familiar, the FTC has there's a law. And let's see, what is that? What was that law? It's the it's a guide, but it is law. This guide here, specifically the guide addresses the application of Section 5 of the FTC Act 15 U.S.C. 45, and it pertains to endorsements and testimonials in advertising. And you can look this up on the FTC website. It's a PDF. It's got this long list of examples. But basically, you can't pay people to or any sort of financial or exchange of anything of financial value in exchange for a testimonial or a review, unless that person that's posting the review declares that relationship. So
right.
if they give you an Amazon gift card, if they buy you a coffee or anything greater than that, it has to be disclosed. And people have gotten into a lot of trouble over this and millions of dollars in fines because they haven't disclosed it. Someone found out, they reported them to FTC, there's an investigation, and then in some cases, and in the healthcare field specifically, there have been cases where entities have been fined in the millions of dollars because it's illegal.
All right, so who's in trouble?
Well, no one's in trouble because I can't say they've been reported, but I'm going to throw something up on the screen here. This is what popped up. Well, it popped up in someone's email through a newsletter, and I still need to replace my microphone. So I'm going to throw this up here. Share your results and receive a special offer. My jaw dropped when I read this.
Oh, this is our boy. This is our boy. Speaking of Atlanta.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. So share your four-hair clinic experience and help others around the world. We value your honest feedback. That's rich. And would like to invite you to share your results with us. By doing so, you'll help many others in the Atlanta and New York City area as well as around the world. Discover the truth about our clinic. Take a moment to make a big difference and let your voice be heard, because God knows we all want our voices to be heard when it comes to reviews. Visit this link to share your reviews on our social media accounts. After submitting your review, call us and receive a free ommited treatment worth $1,400.
Holy mother of God. That had to be his...
I have to laugh.
No, honestly, that had to be his kid. I mean, there's no one who's running that place that would be that dumb to put that out there for public consumption.
I can't say that's true. I cannot say that's true that's his kid, because, and I mean, sure, this can be disputed. Tillman's making this up, he's lying, but I've actually contacted the clinic in the past when I was working with them to ask them not to do specific ads that I had seen of. Nothing like this.
That's right.
Nothing like this. It's got to be clear. I've never seen them do an ad like this before.
Yeah.
If they had, I would have dropped them then, because this is terrible. But
and first of all, if they're charging $1,400 for the Ted water to be put on their head, people's head, that's amazing to me. God bless them.
Yes, I know. That God bless them. If they're getting it, God bless them.
Yeah.
But I've never seen them do anything like this, and I laughed out loud when I saw this. Thanks to the person that sent this to me. But this is what they sent out into in a newsletter. But what's interesting, and I can't bring up the page, but you can look at this page for yourself, forhair.com/patient-reviews. And what's interesting is they're saying share your reviews, but they're not sharing the fact that you get a free ommited. And then down below it, you can see all the reviews. So it's like, can it be any more obvious? Like, you look at these, and these are the embedded reviews that you see. I think they pull them in from Trustpilot or maybe from Google reviews or something. I'm not sure what it is. But how many of those reviewers got the ommited? None of them say it.
Yeah.
None of them disclose it.
It's amazing. It's truly amazing.
But the shocking part of this to me is twofold. Number one, multiple people had to be dumb enough to see this and think it was okay. Sorry, just that's the truth. But the second thing is they're not the only ones. What else are patients getting from different clinics to share their maybe valid experiences, maybe not? I don't know. So buyer beware. I think that, and this expands to a lot of other things. It's not just a review for their website or on Google. This expands to on various message boards. When it comes to this particular clinic, you can't even really talk about them on any message boards except for maybe one, and then on Reddit. You can talk about them on Reddit, and that's about it. So anything you see maybe on Reddit, you got to question the review. Is this because you got a free ommited or something else?
Or a phone call.
Or a phone call, which is common. Or dinner.
Look, when
a gift card.
Many years ago, when I was going to do this plastic surgery thing, I was asked by Real Self to do a live for them because at the time, going live was like black magic, especially in the higher definition back in the day. And I was able to do that. So I did this pilot show, Plastic Surgery Live, and it was like, it was a really great opportunity. I was like, yeah, I think maybe I'll cross over into this space because it's so huge and it's so effed up. Come to find out, at least at the time, a lot of the responses that are being provided by the physicians were actually being provided by someone who, like their office managers. So people who think they were getting their questions answered on Real Self, back in the day at least, by physicians, were not getting their questions answered by physicians, number one. They were getting their questions answered by maybe someone with a degree in something, maybe someone who just works at the front office. Mm-hmm. Maybe they consulted with a doctor, maybe they didn't. But patients believed they were getting responses from doctors. Then I learned about the reviews. And all I can tell you is that is the day when I realized, and I knew there was some shady shit going on overall, but that's when I realized how shady the entire aesthetics industry is.
Yeah.
And then I did the live. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I want to address something said in the chat room by Hampton Hudson, who's a Dr. Cole patient. And I need to preface this with, this doesn't reflect on Dr. Cole's skill set. I've said from the beginning, Spencer said from the beginning, even before, during, and after the emotional and psychological meltdown that he had on the show, that there's no taking away from his skill set. The man has good hands. He does good work. Full stop. Never question that at all.
Right.
But Hampton Hudson says this criticism would carry more weight if he put shit results out. He doesn't, though. He does good, honest procedures. I agree there are a ton of issues there, though. I can't say all of his procedures are honest simply because of the way that he operates.
And why would it carry more? Why would it carry more weight? We're talking about ethics.
We're talking about ethics. I mean, this is illegal. This is yet another demonstration of the clinic not really giving a shit about ethics and the law. You can't be doing.
They're also promoting. They're also publicly promoting stem cells. By the way, I don't know if you saw that.
I did. But Hampton, I understand your point. I get that. But if everything was so copacetic,
I think that's the word.
Why would he need to offer things like this? It doesn't make any sense. And frankly, like I said before, never seen him do anything this blatant before. It reeks of desperation to me. That's all there is to it. That's what it comes down to. Just turmoil and desperation. So taking nothing away from his skill set. Never have, never will. But this points to a larger issue regarding legality and ethics. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say there, what the difference is.
How dare you? So you're saying that Dr. John Cole is not a good businessman, Hampton? He's not going to be. He may not work on you again now, brother. Got to take that back. We should delete that shit.
Delete that shit. Delete. Hope you're doing well, Hampton. Glad you made a comment. But I think that's important. And this wasn't a slam on Dr. Cole. It's just the fact that his outfit is the one that was dumb enough to say the quiet part out loud, and they did.
It's funny because I didn't even know that.
It blows my mind.
You mentioned something about what you wanted to do, but you weren't specific. But I saw something come in about stem cells. And first of all, it's currently illegal to promote and offer stem cells as an actual treatment in aesthetics for anything at this point. There are ways around it. But given the type of promotion that was being done and put out online, his staff or he didn't really understand how to circumvent that by expressing these are experimental techniques, making sure that when patients know and, pick up the phone, they know they're going to have to sign a release. They know this is an experiment. They know that there's really there's not significant data showing that, well, especially you wouldn't even know what the specific stem cells are. Where are the stem cells being derived from? Are the stem cells being derived from their own adipose tissue, after liposuction? Are the stem cells being purchased overseas? I got to tell you, man, I don't want to have biologics injected into my body unless I know exactly where they're coming from. And you want to make sure that it's a good batch. You never want a new bottle of biologics. You don't want anybody opening the new vial and you being the first one using, or at least that lot that they receive, and the first one using that lot. No one knows about that. So I think it's great that there are doctors out there that can offer these biologics, these treatments, but they have to do it within the FDA guidelines. You cannot promote it and say stem cells are the future in hair loss, come one, come all, like it's fucking Barnum and Bailey's circus. That is not legal. That's all, that's it. And if it were me, honestly, if I saw someone doing that, that's a red flag. It's not about being a good businessman or not being a good businessman. It's all about ethics and working within the parameters of the law. So who knows what goes down the line? I mean, he's offering, if they're offering a TED for $1,400 a pop, who's doing the TED? Who is doing the TED for you?
Who's doing the TED? That's the question of the day. Who's doing your TED?
Is it a receptionist doing the TED? Is it just some office worker doing the TED?
Is it another patient that was shown how to press the on button?
Yeah.
Never know.
Guys, phone number 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. We'll take some phone calls. Hampton said he performed TED the other day.
Yeah.
I believe that. I actually believe that.
Believe that. Yeah, I believe that.
If you have a relationship with Dr. Cole somehow and you're in that office, which I wouldn't do it, Hampton, and I would, again, you need to erase that because it's not legal. I know the person or the training person from the laser company says that it is. And maybe Dr. Cole says that it is, but it isn't. And the statutes are right there for you to find. I mean, unless you have, I don't know if you have any type of a PA license or something like that. I doubt you do. So if you perform TED, you're working kind of skirting the parameters of the law. So I wouldn't be too proud of that. Anyway, 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Kenny from New York.
Kenny from New York.
Hey,
thanks for holding on, brother. How are you?
No problem. Thank you for taking my call. It's just interesting show tonight, talking about all the crazy stuff that happens in this industry.
Oh, yeah.
Every Friday, baby. Every Friday.
Yeah. But, I saw, I don't know if you know Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank.
Yeah.
There was a woman, Barbara Corker, and she interviewed him.
I saw that
on her podcast. He said he had a hair transplant once, and he said it was really painful, and you have to go and have them at Turkey. That's the only place where you can go and get it done. And I just thought, wow.
Well, what's interesting about what he said is he said that you go there and you stay in Turkey for a month in a 4-star hotel. It was a crazy. Listen, he's an interesting guy, and I find him entertaining. He's obviously exceptionally successful in life. But it just goes to show you that so many people are ignorant to this shit.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he was getting paid by any of these clinics possibly?
No.
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 No, it was just a really stupid remark. Let's just say an ill-informed remark.
It's interesting because I know a friend of his that, obviously names being withheld, that actually had his work done in North America. So it was strange. It was strange for me to hear that he said that. It made no sense because he knows where his friend went, and to say you need to go to Turkey or that's where it's at. That was very bizarre to me. It was quite bizarre.
His first name's Kevin, right? Kevin O'Leary?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kevin,
Kevin O'Leary.
Yeah, Kevin, if you're listening, I can tell you exactly what product to put out, but what I want is 40% equity in the product, and we will provide you with the American Hair Loss Association seal, and you will make a mint, brother. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, he's the royalty guy, though. He likes the royalty. That's the thing.
You know what? And that makes sense. I do too. Licensing and royalties, that's the way to go.
Yeah. But I called tonight because I was curious. I had a question about, I've been taking Propecia now, name brand, for about 9 years. I've called the show before many years ago.
Okay.
And, it's gotten expensive now. I think the price now has been raised to like $135 for 30 pills. And, I recently left my job and actively looking for a new job. So, money is a little tight. And I was tempted to maybe switch to ProScar and just cut it into 4s because I think for ProScar it's like closer to $200 a month for name brand here in the city. And that would basically last me about 120 days. That's
a reasonable approach.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, how much are you spending on booze every month?
I really don't drink that often. It might maybe once every other week.
And what would you say when you go out to drink? How much do you spend?
Well, usually it's just one drink, maybe two, about $30, $40.
Okay, so would you say that you spend $80 a month on booze?
No, it's nowhere near that.
Okay, all right, just asking. I mean, if I go out, it's a $250 night, and that's without a date.
Yeah, no, it's expensive drinking. I mean, going out in general is expensive, especially here in New York City. I'm on the Upper West Side, so everything's really pricey.
Oh yeah.
Ken, two words for you: box wine. Goes a long way, baby. Goes a long way.
Costco, you can get a huge box of wine for a few bucks. But yeah, so
if it's stored in the proper cardboard, then it just gives this lovely aroma that you just can't get in a quart.
I cannot taste the difference. But I think that's a reasonable approach. Now, we're not doctors, but at least you know that the drug is being manufactured by the same company. And it's the same finasteride, just in a higher dosage. So, if you're going to go that route and save a few bucks, and I certainly understand that's the approach, as opposed to being on name brand for so long and then jumping on a generic.
Yeah, I've been on name brand, like I said, for like about 9 years. But, at first it was around like $115 a month, and then I was paying, maybe the 6th year went up to like $123, and then kind of stayed at $123 for like 3 years. And then this year, I don't know what happened with medication, but like everything has just skyrocketed. So just by so much, So I just.
Well, there's a couple of things. Medication, everything in general, and the supply chains in general have made it more difficult, on every company. And even though this is a brand that's made in the USA, and they have their own, they source their own materials, and they're not getting their stuff in China, whatever it is, it still costs more money to ship. Gas prices are up. It costs them more money to get into the pharmacies. Pharmacy costs are up. So everything's going to go up. That's just the way it is. It's Bidenomics, brother.
Yeah, but usually like never drops in price. Usually if it's that price, it only just goes up, whereas like other things like food and what have you tends to go down over time a little bit, you know?
No, you think it is, but essentially what they're generally doing is the price on the box may look the same or less, but you're probably getting less. Once these companies have the opportunity to gouge you, they're not going to lower their prices. It doesn't work that way.
No.
It doesn't work that way. So, yeah, I mean, maybe a restaurant, when you're going out, maybe their prices will go down if energy prices are down a little bit, or if they're able to, if their costs go down slightly. I've seen that happen, but not in the supermarket, brother.
I remember a time when I could get a bag of Ruffles potato chips and it would actually be full of Ruffles potato chips. And not 35% air.
Dude, I remember a time.
I remember those days.
When you got a box of Cracker Jacks and your prize was made of metal. Okay? That's how old I am.
Yeah.
So it's a different world, man.
But yeah, like that was just a thought I had. If I were to get on name brand ProScar and just cut it into 4s, I understand it's the same medication and the same formula. It's just, have you ever heard of a situation where maybe somebody might react differently, even though it's the same medicine? It's just because when you cut a pill, does it lose its efficacy over a period of time?
That's a good question. If you were to ask, the hair chemist, who's a American Hair Loss Association trusted content creator, if you were to ask Killian, he would say as soon as you break that seal, as soon as air gets into the medication, the oxidation process begins. However, there's still a little bit of a barrier even when you cut the medication. And what I mean by that is there could be some oxidation to the open end of the medication. It will take a long time for that oxidation to kind of penetrate throughout the entire pill. And how much does the oxidation really degrade the medication? We don't know. I've known people who've been quartering their ProScar for a very long time, for decades, and they do very well on it. So I wouldn't be too concerned. But it is, once you break that seal on the medication, yes, I mean, there could be some slight changes to it, but people have been taking corded ProScar forever without and it's been effective. So I don't think you're going to notice a difference. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but if you're going to make a change, in my view, as just someone who has been doing this for 30 years, I'm not a doctor, that's the change. That's the way to do it instead of going into a generic.
Yeah, that's what I
agree with
figured.
that.
I mean, yeah, once I am working again, which I am interviewing for more jobs, so hopefully soon, I'm not sure if I would just stay on what I'm on now. Because the thing is, years ago, when I wanted to get on ProScar, a lot of doctors at the time, at least the doctors I was going to, they didn't feel comfortable prescribing it to me.
Mm-hmm.
They prefer just prescribing me Propecia.
How old are you now?
I'm 32.
Okay.
I started taking the medicine at probably around 23, 24, roughly.
Okay.
All
right. Well, you're still young, so there are going to be doctors who are still going to be concerned about prescribing it, for various reasons. But you'll find one.
My current doctor, my current doctor now is willing to prescribe it because I asked him about it, and he didn't have an issue doing it. It's just I just wanted to know if. Because I've been on the same medicine for a long time now, I don't want to take anything new. So I was just curious about the chemical formation in the makeup in the medicine.
Look,
it'll be an easy.
It really should be the same. It's being manufactured by the same company. I don't think there's any difference in binders or fillers that I'm aware of. But you really don't know. But I would say if you're going to make the switch, ProScar has the longest track record in the game. and
Yeah.
it's made by the same company. So I would say you're probably pretty safe. That's the way to switch,
Okay.
or move into a smaller apartment.
I'm already in a small apartment as it is,
I can imagine, man. Dude, 32, living in Manhattan on the Upper West Side, it's got to be brutal if you're not like crushing it financially.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky enough. I share the apartment with my girlfriend, so yeah, we both split rent. But I wouldn't be able to afford to live here by myself.
Yeah, well, good for you, man, and I'm glad that you have a girlfriend willing to split the rent still.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, you got a good woman there.
Oh, thank you.
All right, brother. Well, good luck. Let us know how you do. I'm sure you're going to be fine.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you taking the call.
You got it. Take care.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Phone number 888-659-3727. I always ask about the drinking because I always find it interesting, and he doesn't drink a lot, but I always find it interesting that people are like, yeah, name brand is just too expensive. And I'm like, how much do you spend on booze every week? And they're like, I don't know, maybe $100.
Yeah. It's like, well, there you go.
Yeah. Stop drinking,
Double
motherfuckers.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And to Vince Warren, wine does have a lot of calories. I've cut it out. Like I stopped drinking, so it's like I feel you, man. Way too many calories.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about drinking because I had a lot of interesting drinking years, and I reminisce about them. But I did realize, at this stage in my life that the recovery period is just, it's like the refractory period, it's like it's just not the same.
It's not the same.
If I go out one
More of an
night,
effect on you.
if I go out one night, I'm affected for 3 days.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Can't
talk to
afford it, man.
I don't want to talk to Joe. I just want to be on an island somewhere. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Alex from San Diego.
Alex, what's happening, brother?
What up, Alex?
I'm doing good. Have you been going on Instagram Live, Spencer?
I have been going on Instagram Live. I've been doing a call-in show on Instagram Live. And people are still stupid enough to try to ask me questions via text.
And people got to get on it.
It's unbelievable. I have to tell you, I do notice, though, it's a totally different audience. It's a lot of young people. And I don't think people are used to talking on the phone anymore.
Yeah, at least in my generation, it's like people are really afraid of phone calls for some reason. That too, which is very annoying.
How old are you now? Mm-hmm. I know you called before.
I'm 34.
Yeah, I mean, there's there's a weird phone phobia that people have. Everyone's much rather communicate via text, and that could be really misconstrued. And I don't get it.
Yeah, it's very annoying. I'm definitely more of a phone call guy.
Yeah,
more efficient. So
absolutely. So what can I do for you, man? What can we do for you?
Well, I've been considering surgery for a long time to fill in my Jude Law-looking hairline.
Okay.
And so I pretty much just look like him from the front, minus the movie star good looks.
I look just like Jude Law, except for the face.
Except for the face.
Yeah. So,
that's good.
But, I've been really considering this for a long time, and I've done a lot of research. And one of the most important lessons I learned from you guys was the reality that there really is no such thing as a scarless procedure when it comes to this stuff.
Correct.
And
amen.
Yeah, and like many guys, I think my backup plan originally, before I really knew anything, was just, I'll just shave my head if it doesn't work out, that whole thing. And
yep.
Yeah, and so it's been, really rightfully so given me pause to really consider surgery and really think about it.
I'm glad.
Yeah, which is good, but So, yeah, especially with FUE, because that's so prominent nowadays, I've always kind of been scared of that as well because of the scarring. But recently I went and saw Dr. Verona, he gave me a great consultation, really seems like a great guy. And
he's a really good person too. Really good person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally got that impression. And he was actually really busy, and it was cool that he was able to make the time to give a really focused and respectful consultation, which I appreciated. And he's had, I believe, one FUE procedure in the past that he told me about. And I got to say, I looked at the back of his head. He showed me the back of his head, and it looks incredible. Like, I really, really had to look closely to try and notice any sort of FUE scars. And I could see them, but it was like it took a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And to me, that was kind of a revelation. And I know everyone's different. I know everyone doesn't heal the same way, and the people's bodies are different. But if it's possible to get a result like that, very minimal scarring, that's, I think, really important.
Well, if you go to see him, and did he tell you who he had his surgery by?
I didn't catch that, actually.
Okay. Well, then I'm not going to divulge it. But if you go to see him, then you will have, Joe did it. I'm just kidding. If you go to see him, you will have very small punctate wounds, and they would be distributed really well. Now, he has a unique, he's able to, you've seen his haircut, he's able to basically shave his head down to the skin on the sides and the back, very close at least, very little stubble. And if you look for it, when he was here in the studio, I can see it right away, but I know what to look for. No one else would see it. So if you go to someone who really knows what they're doing, you could have a result like his. Maybe even better, depending on how you heal.
I was going to say, assuming how you heal.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's good to know. It's encouraging. And I still don't want to bank on that being my fallback plan. But
have you shaved your head yet?
I've done it 3 separate times. I've fully shaved. Or, as close as you can get without a razor, pretty much, on the clippers.
Mm-hmm.
And
not for you.
It's one of those things where it's just the distortion of me looking at myself every day comes into play. I could very well show up, and see you guys in person with a shaved head, and you might say, like, dude, what are you doing? Don't even consider doing surgery. You look fine. People like Joe Rogan can pull it off. So it's a possibility, but it's just, for me, it's really not having that framing of my face that has always really bothered me.
Yeah.
Well, I get that, and that's why I pulled this Trump the early years thing. Let's face it. I would love to be free of it. I would love to just be able to shave my head, but I'm holding on to every hair that I can, even though there are some idiots on Instagram who like to make fun of me. They can go fuck themselves. But no, but I totally get it. It's like I've been with women, my ex, they believe that, based on my stature and, whatever they think is attractive, that I'd be able to pull off a shaved head. I'm like, there's no fucking way, brother. It's not going to happen. I know I would just have like this big, long face and head. It would be bizarre. Not for me. I can't do it. So I understand. You really can't. It's nice to hear from other people if you shave your head and they say you look good, but you still have to feel comfortable in the mirror every day. Yeah. So, you have to make that decision for yourself, and I understand it. I would never judge anybody for that.
Yeah. And so, I'm really thinking about doing it, possibly even soon. So the question I keep asking myself is, in the long run, will this grant me more or less stress, or like more or less emotional pain? And that's kind of what I keep coming back to. Obviously, I can't predict the future, but that's kind of how I've been really trying to process this whole decision.
Well, it definitely sounds to me like your frontal lobe is, like your brain is fully formed at this point, because you're certainly, really thinking about this in a logical, reasonable, and lucid way. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I'll go ahead and throw the question at you that I asked at the very first hair transplant class video I ever did, and that is, what would you do if the outcome wasn't to your expectations? If there was more scarring than you expected, or if it wasn't dense enough, or the something about it didn't look natural, how would you deal with that? How would you move forward with that? Are you the kind of person that can just accept it and say, okay, well, most people wouldn't notice, or it's okay if they notice. It's not terrible. And what kind of person are you to where you'd be able to handle or maybe not handle the development process? Because that's something that a lot of people don't talk about, is how much of a emotional, psychological roller coaster it is from day 1 to month 10, with questions about, is it growing? Is it going to be dense enough? Is this all there is? Onto the other side where, wow, this is great, fantastic, can't wait to see more. And that's kind of like an interspersed type of experience where, yeah, you'll be super happy month 5, and then month 5.5, you're like, wait, is this it? Is this all the density I'm getting? And it goes up and down, up and down. That's why it's a roller coaster. So how are you able to handle that kind of thing, that kind of stress, that kind of uncertainty?
That's a great question. So glad to be able to speak with you. I mean, right now I'm kind of doing I've taken a little bit of page out of Spencer's book here, and I use some topic in the front, and my hair doesn't look as good as Spencer's, I'll say that, but I kind of do that.
Oh my God. I'm going to have to put that on Instagram. I got a compliment. Thank you.
It's just the truth.
I appreciate that.
Did you receive a free Almated to make that statement?
I did. Full disclosure.
or a stem cell rejuvenation?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah. But, I've got enough hair where, and Dr. Verona, he even mentioned, he said, the rest of the hair that I do have on my head is pretty full and sort of, I can maintain what looks like a respectable hairstyle with a lot of effort. And so my plan was to sort of, kind of push it over the area that's been transplanted as best I can, and just basically, if possible, kind of like do what I'm doing now and just play the waiting game. So I don't know what the reality is of that, but maybe that wouldn't be so difficult because I'm already doing it now.
How are you doing as far as maintenance? So I don't remember, are you taking medication now?
Yeah, I've been on generic finasteride for about 6 years, 1 milligram a day, and then.
And you notice, is it slowly progressing, or have you been able to maintain?
I would say it's slowly progressing. Like I'm definitely at least somewhat worse off than I was 6 years ago.
Okay.
And so for that reason, I've considered trying brand name or something a little bit more reliable.
And what does Dr. Verona say?
Well, he said, in regards to what?
In regards to your progression, and in regards to the medication you're on, and in regards to maybe, including something else in your regimen.
We didn't really discuss medication. I think he knew what I was on, and maybe seemed to think that it was probably the best. Yeah, because I've been on finasteride and oral minoxidil now, 2.5 for about 6 months.
Oh, wow. And did you notice any difference with the oral minoxidil in the last 6 months?
It's hard to be sure. I feel like I noticed some improvement in some areas, but then it almost seems like my crown is a little worse. And I don't know, I could just be freaking out. I maybe need to analyze the photos a little bit more, but I definitely see like more baby vellus hairs coming in on the hairline. Nothing that I would feel like is a realistic possibility of coming in like a full hair, but yeah, and no side effects really. And in fact, I spoke with Dr. Benham, and he recommended upping my dose a little bit. So I've been starting to do that too.
Okay. Well, so Dr. Benham is doing the medical management for you.
Yeah, with oral minoxidil.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been
That's great.
in touch with that.
That's great. Well, listen, you're speaking and you're dealing with two really good guys here in the LA area.
Yeah.
Actually, Verona's in Newport. But look, man, I think that there's nothing wrong with waiting. And it really depends on your happiness level and your contentment level at this point. You have to kind of figure out, are you relatively content with your life? Yes, you'll be happy if you have more hair, but I mean, is your life moving in the right direction? Is hair loss holding you back in some ways? And these are all things you have to put into your equation. You're young, but you seem to have a really good head on your shoulders. So before you jump into surgery, you kind of, like you said, is this going to be more stressful to you in the end? It might be, but it also sounds like you're seeing the right physicians, and you kind of seem like you're relatively prepared. You're never really prepared if you're fucked up, but it's less likely you're going to get fucked up if you decide to have surgery with the doc that you had a consultation with.
Well, that's super encouraging to hear.
I mean, you're mitigating the possibilities. Let's put it that way. It doesn't mean that it can't happen.
Yeah, and I'm prepared to stay on the medication for as long as I need. I mean, it hasn't really been negative at all for me so far, so I feel like that's a win.
Well, listen, anything else before we let you go?
Well, I was going to say May actually just set me at ease. He typed something in the chat. He said, there's no emotional pain, only billions of positive emotions a second.
Yeah. He's the best, man.
He thinks everyone should go into the knife.
Everyone should go into the knife.
Yeah, that's awesome. But anyway, thanks, guys.
He'd make a great hair transplant salesman, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Well, listen, good luck, man. Stay in touch. If you have any questions, we're here. If you decide to move forward with surgery, let us know. You're doing the right research.
Yeah,
keep
us updated.
You definitely have the right mentality. So if anyone's a candidate for surgery, emotionally, you seem to be.
Well, it's very encouraging again. So thanks so much, guys.
All right. You take care. Bye-bye.
Take care, Adam.
What time is it? Phone number
is 4:30.
Phone number is 888-659-3727. 888-659-3727. Toll free. We do have some lines open, but I don't know if we're able to take any calls from outside the U.S. today. I'm just kidding. It's a joke.
I knew it. They're blocking me.
Yeah, May's got a promo code now. Promo for hair.
For hair.
No, listen, that I think it's really interesting he brought that up. And I think that, there are some people that are probably like, well, I mean, it's an easy target. The guy lost his shit on our show, whatever. But I have been seeing things, and I've been quiet about it. I have been seeing shit. I'm just like, that facility must be in such tremendous disarray at this point that they're trying anything they can. I gave myself, I'm bleeding. I gave myself, pick the hangnail. Sorry.
Don't be live on the air. You just don't see that anywhere else.
No.
No, I mean, there's the easy target argument, but I mean, it just happened to be from him that I mean, people want to send me shit, right? Like it's for obvious reason. But I'd be doing the same thing. I don't care who it is. I'd be doing the same thing regardless of who it is, because it's such a blatant, again, the silent part spoken out loud, violation of the unspoken rule among clinics that do this kind of thing. You don't publicize, kickbacks for reviews, and that's exactly what they did.
It's fucking hilarious, really.
It's like, really? No one said maybe we shouldn't be doing this.
I do, like when I go to, and this is just the way everyone has to do it. Even when I go to a dentist, not my regular dentist, but like, I go to a periodontist. Excellent, by the way. And after the visit, you get a text. Let us know how. Let us know the visit, and if you'd like to give us a review, click here. That's reasonable. Because it's not like if you'd like to give us a good review, we're going to give you this. Like if you'd like to give us a review, that could prompt somebody to give them a bad review,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At ENT, same thing. They always want to. They want feedback, and they want if you'd like to give us a review, here's a link to our review. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable because this is the way that everyone has to compete now. I will say that when it comes to dentistry, even aesthetic dentistry, and they're in the aesthetics field, and when it comes to, I would say, real medicine, I hate to say it, not that this isn't real medicine, I think there's a better opportunity to see more real reviews, like real reviews, than to see real reviews in aesthetic surgery. Because it's a cottage industry. There's a time when, and I still have that forum up, people are still reading it, it's crazy. When a company came to me and they wanted to buy the domain and all of the, everything on it, Bald True Talk, and turn it into a kind of a clandestine hair transplant review site. My first thing to them was, well, there's a good handful of really popular clandestine review sites, paid review sites out there. And their thing was that, they felt that this was very legitimate, whatever, it was connected to me and to what we do. And it was a 7-figure offering. And this was about 10 years ago. I've said this on the air before. You just forgot.
No, I remember.
Yeah. And I stupidly didn't do it. And I kind of just let the forum just exist because I hate dealing with the forums or anybody, the few people on my staff having to deal with it. They're ugly places.
Yeah.
But if I would have sold it, everyone would have been conned into believing that all the doctors who were associated with it and all the reviews were all real. Or there wasn't some level of compensation or community-driven bullshit. That's how this industry works. When I hear people mention the forums, I have to laugh. When I hear people say, oh, you've gotten so many great reviews on the forum, I have to fucking laugh.
Yeah.
Because I know how it works. And when I hear the people who say it, and I remember, this is a story I've been telling for, I'll take your calls in a second, guys, for well over, a decade and a half. This one forum that was, a lot of doctors are tied to, opened up their back end to the public accidentally when they were upgrading it.
Yeah.
And me and somebody I was working with at the time happened to be there and see it and download it. And it was just the same IP address after the other, just having fights, conversations, talking about doctors with themselves. Extorting doctors. This is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, but it's unbelievable. And these places still exist. And yes, there are people who end up finding good doctors and having good surgeries from these places. But what you're not going to see is the bad shit. And it's a lot. 888-659-3727. God, I hate so much of this industry. It's unbelievable. I guess that's why I still...
60. Brother 60. Forums were best in ancient Rome. That's good.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello, sir. How are you?
May. What's happening, brother?
From Kazakhstan.
May from Kazakhstan.
Yeah. Oh.
It's funny. You have a local area code?
Because I'm close to you. I'm closer to you.
Well, not local,
told you.
not local to me, brother. But yes, it's in the U.S.
Well, I'm closer and closer every day.
Am I going to have to record? Well, we
yeah.
are recording this, but are we going to have to send this to the police or what?
Oh, no. If we have some fight, it will be some open venue, you know. You're going to kick my ass, of course, because you have time for all these workouts. And I'm a corporate person. I don't have time for workouts.
You've got time. You just don't do them. You just don't make the time. You spend the time watching the Ball of Truth on Fridays. You could be at the fucking gym right now.
Yeah, I'm doing my exam preparation already 2 months. I don't have time to do this, during the day. And I just want to change a bit the topic to me.
Yeah, go ahead, man. What can we do for you, man?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, about that disclosure, I'm going to say something again, and you would think that it's some funny and perhaps irrelevant stuff. Maybe yes, maybe not. But, I go from the perspective of consumer, Well, for instance, when I look through these Instagram examples of doctors, Joe's Instagram, I see it is written that 6 months result, and it looks so gorgeous. I do understand that they prepare the light, another angle, but still it looks super that I cannot even believe. And some thoughts come to my mind that perhaps that guy could use, the patient could use minoxidil, because some people have that fluvium. I don't remember how to pronounce it correctly.
It's okay.
Some shedding.
Yeah.
Some shedding. Some instant shedding. But some people don't.
That's
some
right.
People, they good responders, and they have a very good density and good growth from minoxidil. And this result could be the combination of minoxidil and HT. And I do not understand what comes from HT, what comes from minoxidil. For instance, I'm not able to, I can't take Mr. Rolando's result, because he always says that I use minoxidil. So I don't understand what goes from minoxidil, what comes from HT. And because we have that language barrier, I'm going to provide some parallel example. And that would be about numbers. That example will help us to understand each other, or it will make it more complicated, and we're going to screw this conversation. But that's okay. That's fine. There is I'm an auditor, I audit financial statements. There are number EB, earnings before interest and tax. We call it EBIT.
Okay.
Right? You know this, right?
Yes.
And we know that number is conditional, because the name of that parameter is the disclosure itself. And there also a net income. So two different numbers.
Right.
Net income would be, the result from HT, EBIT, would be results with minoxidil. And I mentioned minoxidil, not financier, because financier do not give you some, crazy growth from 6 months. So at least I think so, But minoxidil, topical minoxidil or oral minoxidil, within 6 months can provide you a very good result, a very good growth, because I've been using it for 10 years. And why would you try to implement this format? I know that it sounds crazy, it sounds perhaps impractical, but financial statements, they do this, but you do not.
What do you mean by we do not?
I don't understand what you're saying.
Okay, I'm sorry. Joe, for instance, first, doctors, once you said that you can make them, oops, something wrong with, do I still get
Hello?
you?
Yeah, you're on the air, brother.
Here.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, you said once to me that you told me that you cannot make the doctors to to use some format of advertising. Yes, but Joe post these results on his own Instagram, for instance. You got what I'm saying?
Oh, so what you want is if Joe posts the results of a physician, then Joe has to then delve into the patient, ask the physician for the exact medical information of the patient, what medications they're on, when they started the medication, and if this is a result of a combination of hair transplants, finasteride, and oral minoxidil. And that...
Well, a nice... excuse me. A nice, disclosure from in the corner of the image about disclosure that the patient used minoxidil during the post-operation period, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree that wouldn't be in a perfect world, but also, I mean, you as a knowledgeable consumer, most people know. Well, not most people. The average consumer doesn't know, but you, for instance, know that most hair transplant surgeons worth their salt is going to make sure that their patient is on medication, and most of the results that you see online are going to be a combination of medication and hair transplant surgery. But I don't necessarily disagree with you. But I mean, the truth is, how are you going to do it?
I don't disagree either, but. I have a hard enough time getting doctors to take a photo
exactly.
without using a fucking 10-year-old Android phone.
Yeah.
I much less getting them to use, to get a proper camera for video, for 4K video. Look, I am all for that kind of transparency, all for that kind of, what am I looking for? Display of information so that patients can understand, okay, so this is from medication, this is from surgery, we know what he did before, we know what he did after. Absolutely. Now when I make a video about a doctor that's coming on board, I always go through their results. And part of the problem I have, I've actually been dealing with 2 different clinics that I'm working with behind the scenes to get this information, because sometimes they don't really have that readily available. And it's kind of weird where I have to kind of twist their arm to really get this kind of information, because they have to they don't know when they're looking at the patient's before and after images. They don't remember what that patient had as far as a surgical history. They got to go get the file. They got to transcribe it into something they can post online. It's a hassle for them, and it's already tough enough for them to find the time to actually post the photos. But when I'm dealing with them for making these videos, I do press for like you look at my introduction videos for different doctors I've brought on board. They almost always have that kind of information. Not always, but if it's not in there, it's because I just couldn't get it in time for me to put the video out, and I got tired of waiting. Does that make sense?
Well. I don't say that I blame you, and I would
not saying you are.
I would say that I would say that I would suggest you to try to implement that kind of practice, not to make them, but kind of influence them. And if you have,
well, I have. I have tried to get them to do that. It's just like I told you when we were talking before, as you brought up, I can't make them do that. Like that's not it's not easy to do. Like I'm actually focusing on something else as far as not so much transparency on their results, but I'm trying to kind of tidy up the advertising that a lot of clinics do, clinics I work with and clinics I don't work with, where if they're using male models or female models on their website that aren't patients of theirs, you can actually look on most of my members' websites. If you see a stock image of some guy, looking all sharp with his full head of hair, and he's not a patient, it actually says not an actual patient of whatever clinic. I've got most of my clinics on board to do that. And I'm trying to get them to get rid of those kinds of photos completely, and I'm having a lot of success with that, but it's not done yet. But I told them, if you're going to use this kind of photo, you got to put a disclaimer, not a patient of my clinic. Mm-hmm. I think that's important. So to go so far as to, demand or influence them to have the details of when a patient started medication, if they're taking it at all, I'd love to do that. But, it's one step at a time. I mean, I got other things I'm trying to get them to do as well. But I understand, and I'm on board with that. I have no problem with it whatsoever. Not at all.
Oh, yeah, because I think that this information is important for transparency.
Of course it is.
That's what I...
Of course it is. I look at... I'm not disagreeing with you in the least. I agree transparency is important. I think the transparency when it comes to potential misleading people as far as the advertising, I think that's more important. At least as a stepping stone into other things to get clinics to be transparent about, to where they're not using images of people that aren't their patients. I think that's a big deal. And I've been working to get rid of that, at least with clinics I work with, and I'm pretty successful with it so far. I still got more work to do, but it's about these, making small steps to get them to move in that direction that I want them to. Starting off with, this is not a patient of our clinic, disclaimers, that kind of thing, and eventually to where those kinds of photos aren't even allowed at all, and it's getting there. So once I get that done, then I can move on to, more consistent disclosure of all the medications and when the patient started taking them. But you also have to understand is not all medical files will have that information as far as when a patient started medication. Like some clinics will be like, okay, so patient X came to us and we did X number of grafts. He was on Propecia before he came to see us, but they don't have the detail of how long they were on Propecia. They don't know if it was 1 month. They don't know if it was 1 year or 10 years because they didn't write that particular piece of information down. They just know that he was on medication. So there's not always going to be consistency with those presentations.
Well, consistency, I mean, these are details, perhaps important details, yes. But, to me, as to consumer, if you write the patient for taking minoxidil during the post-operation period, or it is unknown whether the patient used minoxidil. I outline minoxidil from all other medication because it is very, very strong. I don't know the strongest medication who would provide a better growth within short period of time. And of course, if you say that if you don't know how many months the guy was using minoxidil, well, you just also can disclose that. So you can say partially or during the whole post-operation period, until the day the guy was using minoxidil. That would be, to me,
that would be great.
That would be helpful.
Yeah,
that would be very helpful. And I think, I just want to tell you that these are good.
Just 1 second. Just 1 second.
Oh, okay. Let me shut up. Go ahead.
It's just, because from the practical point of view, I choose doctors from their results, posting results too. not only, but I consider it, and they think that I consider it, because why wouldn't they? Would they post it, right? And you say that you have problems to make them a good picture, but I see very good pictures, high resolution pictures and so on. They have time, and they have time to do a very good resolution picture, but they don't have time to provide information about minoxidil. Perhaps they just don't want to provide this. And if they have still photos without their patient, and these photos are not the patient, well, that's very bad. I see that situation kind of bad.
Well, May, what we're going to do is we're going to put that into the digital, the digital. What's that box called? Not the collection box, suggestion box.
Suggestion
at the ISHRS.
Yes.
And we're going to, maybe put this in the recording and say, look, May has this suggestion for all of you doctors. And you know what they're going to say? Who gives a shit? Because sadly, that's the way this industry is. I wish that everyone, even the good doctors, the guys that we like and that are doing good results, were willing and able and understood the importance of everything that you just spoke about, May, and how it would make the decision-making process for consumers that much easier. I couldn't think of suggestion box. Jesus. That much easier. I totally agree with it. But you have to understand, it is like herding cats with these people. Do you know what herding cats means?
Yep.
Of course, I understand.
Yeah. It is like herding cats with these people. So, yeah, maybe you'll find the one-off, the one or two people like, yeah, that's a good idea. We're going to do that in our practice. You know what everyone else is going to do? They're going to keep going to work. They're going to keep using their consultants. They're going to keep going to these goofy meetings. They're going to keep attaching themselves to these fucked up, unethical websites because they don't understand how to evolve. And it's sad, but we can certainly make that suggestion to people for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
But what you are able to do is to put some little sign that it is unknown whether the minoxidil was used during the post-operation period. You are able to do so, but you are not gonna.
Who, me? The good thing about what I do is I don't post any fucking shit before and after pictures.
I address Joe right now.
Oh, Joe, he's addressing
this is
you.
about you, Spencer.
He's addressing
he ain't
you
talking
directly.
to you, he's talking to me.
Yeah. All right, May, listen. All good suggestions.
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. But like Spencer said, it's difficult to get everyone to do the same thing if it doesn't make a difference to their bottom line. It's only the things that doctors are. The only thing doctors are really concerned about, and this isn't to take away from their ethics about patient care and stuff, but the only thing that really doctors care about when it comes to presenting their results is if it's going to be good enough to get patients' attention or people's attention so that they can be patients as well. That's all they really care about. And they know that most people don't really look for that kind of detail. It's the hair nerds that do, and that's fine. But if it means more work for them to get this documentation out there, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. I mean, someone needs to twist their arm, and I'm the person to do it. Spencer's the person to do it, but it's not going to work across for everyone. And so you're still going to have maybe some that would do it, but others that won't for various reasons. And look, it's a great idea, and I would love to see it come to fruition, but it's sadly not going to, at least not for everyone.
I meant you. Many people look through your Instagram, and if you posting it, people think that this is more transparent. If you posting it,
Are you talking about when I share? Listen, when I have a doctor, a clinic I work with, I reshare their posts. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of time, May. I don't have that kind of time. I see a good result. I look at it. I evaluate it for maybe 5 seconds. I'm like, okay, this is actually a good result. I can share this just to support the people that I think need the support. I'm not gonna spend my time calling up the clinic saying, hey, what's the medical history on this patient? No, I'm not doing that.
The dude is just sharing something on Instagram. It's like, bing, press a button, share. He's not going to go in there.
Yeah.
Hey, doc, listen, I'm considering sharing your last post, but here's what I need from you. I need to know how many years this guy was on finasteride, if he's taking oral minoxidil,
No finasteride.
Okay, no finasteride. If he's taking oral minoxidil.
Or
Whatever.
Well, this is also. I got your point. Okay, that was also from the viewers sake. I didn't have. I know that there is no chance to make you do this, but this is for the viewers' sake.
Well, listen, May, we always appreciate the call. I understand, and I have to tell you that it's a good point. It really is a good point.
It is.
But we are dealing in reality, and we have to work within the parameters of this fucked up industry. And Joe, I thought like you were talking about like what Joe posts, like if he took the time to post somebody's images and did a write up or something. Yeah, that's understandable.
Same thing.
But
it
just
is.
it's not the same thing because he's sitting there on his fucking toilet saying, "I think I'm going to share this."
That's it.
Yeah.
And just take this to the next level, okay, May. So I'm going to run you through a scenario, okay? So if I see a clinic that I like or that I work with posting a result on their Instagram, if I want to share that on my Instagram, this is what it will take. I pick up the phone, I call the clinic, and I ask for the doctor. Well, they're in surgery. They'll call you back. So the way these doctors work, they might call me back the same day. They might call me back 2 days later because they're busy. If I send an email, it'd be the same thing. So if I'm going to share a post from someone, it could be a week before I get all the information I want that would satisfy what you're talking about before I would be able to post it with all those parameters fulfilled. So by the time I've gotten the information I need to post that, 17 or 30 or 40 other posts have gone up that I'd want to share as well. So if I ever want to share a post of another clinic that's got their results, when am I able to actually do that? Because I'm spending all my time trying to get the background information on the patient. It's impossible. It doesn't make any sense for me. You see the problem?
But in this
Because I'm dealing because I can't just dip into their database to find the information myself. I have to rely on people.
Here, this is what we're going to do right now, though. Nick, I'm going to
usually in a different country
Nick,
too.
No, I called you Nick. I mean, May, we're gonna let you go. End of subject. I appreciate the call. We gave you a lot of time. I think it makes a lot of sense what you are trying to get across as a consumer. Maybe one day that will be the status quo, and we can figure a way we can figure out a way to make that happen. But as of today, everyone needs to look at before and after images and videos and make a decision at their own risk. You have no idea what the reality is in person, ever.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've been trying to get across for years.
Yeah.
All right, May. Talk to you next week. Have a good weekend, brother.
Good call, May. Take care.
Take care.
It's crazy.
Oh, you're scoffing at us?
Are you scoffing?
All right, dude. I think that's the last phone call from this dude. I'm not even upset. It's just like I just gave him a lot of time. You went to explain yourself. These guys
and then I'm scoffed at. Whatever. Is he still on?
I feel bad for him, really. He's got a lot of analysis issues, and I understand that. This guy, he went through a lot with his hair transplant. I'm glad he made a good decision, but Jesus Christ.
And he says in the chat room, so no, it's kind of serious. Is it really?
What's serious?
The Instagram post. I don't know. Anyway. All right.
The May Show took over by stealth.
It's always great to hear from him.
Yeah, always
right.
is always uplifting. Always brings up the show. It's always a lot of fun. All right, you're probably going to go. I think I may go live on Instagram. I don't know if you want to join me, but you probably don't. But if you do, you're welcome, Joe.
I appreciate that.
Guys, we're going to do an after show on Instagram. Go to my Instagram page at Spencer Kobren. What happened?
But are you going to have any details on Instagram? Never mind.
Oh,
Never
yeah.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe we'll get some people who really need some help, not just Joe's critics.
Anyway, all right, good stuff.
All right, guys. Yeah, so go over there. I'm going to set up. I'm probably going to get something to drink and then go live on Instagram in like 5 minutes or so. That's at Spencer Kobren. Follow me. And if you are watching the broadcast and you want to know when I go live, either with Joe or with just myself or somebody else, click on your notifications on Instagram so you'll know when I go live. Anything you want to add, Joe?
No. It's been a good show. Had some good calls.
May was disgusted with us at the end. Disgusted.
He really was. Like, it was almost like a harumph.
We give this guy so much airtime. And he was disgusted when we got off the phone with him.
He was incensed.
I have to laugh, though. It makes me laugh, really. It's funny.
God bless his heart.
Like,
good luck with your exams, May.
Yeah, we placate him and we take his calls and we're like, yeah, you know what? This could end up going south, but fuck it. Let's take the call. Let's not hang up on the guy. Maybe he's got something interesting to say. I thought he had something interesting to say today. But then he says have to drive it into the ground. He needs the instant satisfaction somehow.
Real Talk Channel 1, May, you're a hair Karen.
He is. He is a hair Karen.
Oh, God.
Like, who else would
all
give
right.
this guy so much live time? And then he scoffs at the end. I have to laugh. It's comical.
May, we love you, buddy, but we give you the time to talk and then you feel like we're, I don't know, beneath you or something. I don't get it. God bless you. Good luck with your exams. Wish you all the best. And yeah, good on you, buddy.
Have a drink, relax, chill a little bit. Life is too short to call the hair loss show every week angry. You had a good hair transplant result.
He's not angry. He's just being picky.
Well, I think it's both. I think there's a level of intolerance, and he's unable to tolerate
Contempt.
Contempt
That's the
is a
word.
good word. Yeah, but
Yes.
but he's also unable to tolerate just having a normal conversation.
Well, he's not able to tolerate any sort of truth that gets in the way of what he wants to achieve.
Yeah, or just even a slight disagreement.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Whoever's holding on can definitely hold on. I'm going to take some calls in a little bit. We're going to go on Instagram live. At least I am. I don't know if Joe's going to join me. Are you joining me, Joe?
Probably not. I
Okay.
got stuff to do.
All right. Joe's busy. He's a busy man. I spend my Friday nights talking to you guys, trying to help you.
I'll be contacting doctors to get medication information on reposts I do.
I think that's a very good.
I got some clinics to call.
I think that's a very good idea. You're sitting on the can reposting some doctor stuff, and
I'm telling you, it's like my
Jesus.
morning coffee is like, oh, okay, well that's good. Okay, that looks good. Okay,
Yeah.
share my stories. Done. Done.
It's really fascinating, man. The human mind is just truly fascinating. All right, guys, until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you.